G'day, it's Mark and welcome back to the channel. You seem to enjoy the Australian content, so I've uploading another model in the Falcon series. If you haven't already checked them out on the channel. The XK Falcon right up to XT, and of course in the model series following from that, today we're going to do the XW. Now, the XW Falcon was released in June 1969 and went through to October 1970. And it was the third iteration of that body style that was debuted with the XR and then followed by the XT. The XW featured a new grille, which was actually made of plastic, not metal like the earlier models, new taillights, and also the taillights and the front indicators were also of a wraparound design. And almost all of the exterior body panels were new. It was also extensively redesigned in terms of the interior. The model range consisted of the Falcon sedan, the Falcon 500 sedan, the Futura sedan made a comeback, the Fairmont sedan, which had the beautiful bucket seats, those really comfortable looking bucket seats, the Falcon wagon, the Falcon 500 wagon, and the Fairmont wagon. In addition, there was also the familiar Falcon ute and also the panel van. And of course, topping the range in the sedan models was the GT. There's also a GS pack option available, which was a Grand Sport Rally option, and that was available on the Falcon 500, the Futura, and the Fairmont sedans. Engines ranged from the 188 six-cylinder to the 221 six-cylinder. If you preferred V8 power, and let's face it, who doesn't, you could option for the 302 cubic inch V8, a really wonderful engine, it's very reliable, and a 351 V8, and they were the Windsor engines. Later, Cleveland V8s replaced the Windsors, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. The GT was released 2 months after the mainstream models, and that was fitted with a 351 Windsor engine. In addition to the GT, you could also order a GT-HO, and HO stood for handling option. Now, there were 2 models in the GT. There was the Phase 1 and the Phase 2. So the Phase 1 had the Windsor V8 and the Phase 2 had the Cleveland V8. Now, interestingly enough, there were a small number produced of the Phase 1, which were really known as the Phase 1.5s, that also had upgrades to that new engine. And that was in, I think, around March, April 1970. The first 260 XW GTs had the 290 horsepower Windsor 351. They also were fitted with a 36-gallon fuel tank, and that was very much aimed at extending the range for the race cars at the Bathurst 500. They also had heavy-duty suspension to suit the extra power, of course. The HO variant, handling option, arrived 1 month after the initial launch of the GT model. Engine power went to 300 horsepower, had a bigger carburetor, hydraulic valve lifters, revised cam, heavy-duty alternator, an alloy inlet manifold, and also 3-inch heavy-duty tail shaft. It also had heavier roll bars and front coils, and also stiffer shocks. Now, in 1969, you would have thought Ford was poised with the 351 V8 in the XW to win Bathurst, and it should have won, but for a choice of bad tyres. And this resulted in frequent pitting of the race teams and also some accidents, including rollovers. Despite all the setbacks with the tyres, an XW GT-HO did manage to come second outright in the 1969 Bathurst 500. Now, as I mentioned earlier, in March, April 1970, there were some XW models that were released with the Cleveland V8, which are Phase 1.5s, putting out 300 horsepower. And these also had the 600 Holly. And that also, it's worth noting that when the Phase 2 came out, there were additional upgrades over and above that 1.5 model. And that included going from a 600 Holly to a 750 Holly. It also had solid cam and lifters, close ratio 4-speed manual gearbox, a Daytona diff, a 31 spline rear axles, wide finned drums at the rear, plus a lot more. Ford had overcome its tyre issues, so for the 1970 Bathurst 500, Alan Moffat, famous race car driver, he won the race after leading all the way from lap 2. There's a couple of very interesting models in the XW. They weren't available to the public, strictly speaking, but Bill Burke, the charismatic and energised managing director of Ford Australia, he often had a lot of one-off cars. If you look back on the XT episode in the series I've done, you'll see that Bill Burke had a special show car produced in the XT model. But for the XW, he had a fantastic black 428 Cobra jet powered GTHO with high back seats and a factory sunroof, and what a terrific car. That car still exists. It's in private hands now with collectors, and that's just a one-off. So what an amazing car. That engine was out of some show cars that had been modified by Carcraft in the US. Also of interest, Ford produced the Surfaroo Ute, and some of those were on display at Bathurst as a parade. It was also used extensively for PR. It was on the cover of Wheels magazine, had a 302 V8, 4-speed manual, and I believe there's different numbers quoted, but I believe 5 were built in addition to the show car, and they're actually sold to the public in very limited numbers through the dealers, I guess, after they'd completed the show circuit. So if you've got a Surfaroo Ute, how good is that? In fact, when I was at Ford Performance Vehicles as heading up product planning, I actually was going to bring back a Surfaroo Ute, but that's a story for another time. XW Falcon production reached a total of 105,785, and that included 2,287 GTs and 662 GDHOs. Which is your favourite Falcon? I actually quite like the XW. It is actually one of my favourite models. But keen to hear what models you like the best out of the Falcon range so far. So thanks again for watching. Please give the episode a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button in the lower right-hand part of the screen. Appreciate everyone that subscribes and comments. Always reply to everybody's comments as well. So look, there'll be some details in there. I'm sure some of the train spotters will add some additional context to some of the cars. The whole idea here is just to give people a bit of an overview of the various Falcon models. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. Check out the other Falcon episodes, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Come and break away. Ford will lead the way.
New Falcon is here. The all excitement happening at your Ford dealers. Oh, new Falcon. It's what's happening now. Falcon GT, Futura, Fairmont, Falcon 500, all with exciting grand sport options.